Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Alrighty, got done with that guillotine video. Hello, gentlemen. My name is and ladies. I don't care what's in between your legs. I really don't. I just care that you want to learn about history. Everyone is welcome. My name is Connor. Did I say this? I used to like get paranoid over. Let me give you a little over my intro. You know, of like, oh god, that didn't sound right. Oh, I gotta restart. And now I'm just like, listen, you're gonna get me as me, and I mess up sometimes. If it's really terrible, maybe I'll restart it. But let's go. Original link to the video, top of the description below. Right below that, link to the Discord. Guys, if you want to learn more about history, join the history community, partake in polls, hang out with really cool, sometimes nice people. No, they're good. They're great. All right, I got my I had to get more coffee. I paused it, but yeah. All right, everyone over there is great. Love to have you. And right below the Discord link will be my link to my second channel, Mr. McJibbin, where I do more non-history related stuff. Yeah, preemptive like. When did this come out? May 31st. Baz Battles, great channel. I'm starting to get them kind of... Anyways, let's go. If you are not ready to learn, there's the door. You're in the wrong class. Home ec is down the hall. It is B period. You're confused again. Memorize your schedule. Make me some tater tots. And yeah, that's fine. All right, let's go. The Channel Dash 1942. Dunkirk? 1942, Channel Dash. I know I'm about to find out, but is this... I'm wondering if this is going to be about Germans trying to cross over the channel, or about... I don't know. Let's go.
It is the cold winter evening of the 11th of February, 1942. Dozens of German sailors bustle around aboard the German fast battleship Scharnhorst, ensuring the vessel is ready for an upcoming mission. The commander of the entire battle group, Vice Admiral Otto Ziliaks, leans over the handrail on the ship's bridge to check the preparations on the similar battleship moored just a few hundred meters away. The Gneisenau was being fueled and loaded with necessary equipment. It seemed that within the next 2 or 3 hours, the group will be ready to finally depart the port of Brest. One of the most risky missions in naval history is about to begin. This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. Enjoy well-researched and insightful documentaries? Then we highly recommend you check out CuriosityStream.
I'm going to let this play out, obviously, and use any of the promo codes they might have. I'll make sure to point them out if he has them. I really don't know what this operation is, because... So it is a German operation going
on CuriosityStream.
Into
science, technology, nature, and many other topics are just
into Great Britain.
And as of this video, they are running a fantastic
Jacqueline Kennedy, beautiful.
For less than $2 a month on their annual plan.
Yes, I'm interested.
Access to their film library. But if you use the link in the description below and use the promotional code BazBattles,
guys, make sure. I love being able to react to this stuff. That they make. Use Baz Battles promo code, and the link to the description in the description, I think, is this one, right?
Also get a 30-day trial absolutely free, available on all major platforms. CuriosityStream.
Yeah, right. It is that one right there. Promo code Baz Battles
in the world.
That helps support them.
In the description below, and stay curious.
They're sponsoring everyone, huh? I want one. Someone said to get a P.O. box, too, which I've been thinking about recently, but I don't know if I have enough. I feel like I have to get a few more subscribers. Let me know if you guys think I should open one. If I do, I'll have someone send me a test package, just in case I mess up the address or something. Something very cheap.
1941. Appearing out of the morning mist, the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen enters the safe harbor of the German-occupied port of Brest to undergo much-needed engine repairs. Not a week ago, she parted ways with the damaged battleship Bismarck, which was soon compelled to fight her last battle against the overwhelming pursuit of the British Royal Navy.
Check out Sabaton video if you want to learn more about that.
The demise of the Bismarck one of the two newest and most powerful warships of the Kriegsmarine, led the German Naval Command to rethink the role of their biggest naval vessels in the ongoing Battle of the Atlantic.
It was ridiculous to...
In the summer of the year 1941, the Kriegsmarine had 3 serviceable capital ships.
I'm sorry, I'm pausing again. They should have just used, this fantastical fantasy idea that you're going to rival the British and Americans eventually when they come in. The British on the seas is ridiculous and unnecessary compared to the amount of effort it would take. And I would have just used the Bismarck. I wouldn't even want to use it in battle at any time. Just use this thing, make it hide, just so that the Allies have to think about it rather than having it out in open ocean.
At their command. The second craft of the Bismarck class, the Tirpitz, was finishing crew training in Kiel, and the 2 smaller fast battleships, referred to as battle cruisers by the British, the Scharnhorst and her sister ship, the Gneisenau, both undergoing repairs in the port of Brest. Each of these 3 warships presented a serious threat to Allied merchant convoys steaming through the Atlantic, and their very existence tied down a good portion of the British home fleet, whose main task was to keep the shipping lanes free of the German menace. In order to at least partially contain the potential of the Kriegsmarine, the British Royal Air Force was assigned with the mission of bombing warships anchored in German-controlled ports, in the hope to put them out of commission for as long as possible. These air raids proved to be rather ineffective in the case of the Tirpitz, as she was a relatively hard target located deep into the southwestern Baltic coast. But the other 2 battleships, moored at Brest Harbor, were subject to an almost constant barrage of bombing sorties flown by the Royal Air Force. Of course, these were dangerous missions for the bomber crews, performed usually at night and against heavy anti-aircraft defenses around the port facilities, with small, barely visible targets, so it rarely yielded any significant results. But the sheer amount of attacks flown by the British were enough to keep the German warships out of service.
I mean, it's not that far. Why not kind of go out? I'm sure you have enough fuel. Kind of go out into the Atlantic a bit and then down into the Bay of Biscay, right, is here. And then attack from the south.
For a good part of 1941. The German Naval Command under Grand Admiral Erich Raeder.
My ADD is off the charts this video, guys. I'm pausing like crazy. I really gotta chill.
The fate of the Bismarck and the manner in which the British were able to track the battleship down in the Atlantic with the help of their superior radar highlighted the risk the Kriegsmarine had to consider while planning Atlantic service ship sorties against merchant convoys. The demise of the Bismarck convinced the Führer that all of his major vessels were little more than costly luxuries, especially closer to the end of 1941, when the Wehrmacht was enduring the first strains on the new front opened against the Soviet Union earlier that year. The idea of bringing the 3 warships from Brest back to home waters took hold when the British made a number of raids on German-occupied Norway, which made Hitler realize that the Scandinavian country could become a target for Allied invasion. Based on this, the Tirpitz was moved to the Norwegian fjords to both strengthen the German defenses there and also to attain a good forward base to harass.
What's that really long river there in Norway, kind of flowing from center Norway west into the Atlantic?
Arctic the German defenses there, and also to attain a good forward base to harass Arctic convoys bound for the Soviet Union. The warships in Brest were to follow the same patrol, but the question remained how to safely move them back home unscathed. Now, Raeder and the other high-ranked Kriegsmarine officers staunchly opposed this idea, as there was literally no safe way to reposition the warships at Brest back to Germany. Every pass around Iceland or the Faroe Islands was fraught with danger, and the only other option, pushing through the English Channel, was absolute lunacy.
Okay, so I was confused at the beginning. I'm like, I don't remember any real major mission at this point in the war by either the UK or the Germans to cross the channel to invade. The Germans either invade what is it, Sussex? Invade England, or the English invading into Belgium or France. And so I was confused. But okay, this is about Germans salvaging what ships they can and trying to get them home, and they have to go through the channel.
Suicide mission. But when the Führer heard about this option, his interest was piqued, much to Ritter's dismay. As bold as it sounded, Hitler doubted that the British would be able to react quickly enough and concentrate enough naval vessels and aircraft to thwart the Germans' plans. As was often the case, once the Führer was fixated on an idea, there was no turning back. The command and the operation.
I have a big question, but I'm going to wait until and see if it explains it.
Details were entrusted to the Vice Admiral Otto Celiax, who devised a plan for this reckless mission. The battle group was to secretly leave Brest under the cover of darkness, to pass through the most dangerous part of the channel, the Straits of Dover, in daylight, hoping to catch the British off guard.
Lower it.
The preparations were performed in the utmost secrecy. Even the majority of the crew aboard the German vessels were oblivious to their actual destination.
All right, before I forget, I'm forgetting what the actual point of this mission is. Is it simply to salvage the boats? What did I miss? Why not just like take them down into the Mediterranean? But I mean, I'm guessing through getting through this Strait of Gibraltar might be even more difficult. I'm not saying you could get them back to Germany through the Mediterranean, but you can get them to friendly Italy, right?
The loading of some tropical equipment and uniforms helped to spread the deception and fuel the rumors that the battle group was preparing to steam south, possibly along the West African coast. The preparations were completed by February 1941, and the Germans waited for opportune bad weather conditions to start the mission. In the evening of the 11th of February, Admiral Celiax hoisted his flag aboard the Scharnhorst, preparing for their departure. Shortly before midnight, the three warships weighed anchor and, with an escort of 6 destroyers, sailed out of the port of Brest. It should be taken into account that the British were not completely oblivious to the German plans, thanks to the Enigma codebreakers at Bletchley Park, who were able to decode a good portion of the enemy's communication.
British are so smart.
In fact, the British Admiralty were not only aware that the German battleships would soon leave Brest, but also had a plan in the case of an enemy attempt to pass through the English Channel.
What are those islands out there at the, like 50 miles off the coast of the tip of Cornwall?
Yet, scarcely anyone in the British command expected such a bold move from the Kriegsmarine. In the meantime, the beginning of the German voyage looked promising. Celiax was lucky enough to evade the Royal Air Force patrols and even avoided being spotted by a British submarine meant to watch over sea lanes around Brest. Steaming in the dark at 27 knots,
HMS Sea Lion, that's a cool name for a sub.
The unhindered German group was almost halfway through the channel, passing the Cherbourg Peninsula
Why are they called U-boats, by the way?
around 7:30 a.m. But Vice Admiral Celiax kept up his guard, knowing that his ships were moving through what was essentially the British front yard, and the most dangerous part of the cruise was still ahead. With each passing hour, the skies grew
Le Havre, I stayed there one night.
brighter, and the morning weather heavily favored the Germans. A thick cover of clouds with frequent rain greatly reduced visibility.
Sitting on
and
my
even
hands.
the Luftwaffe fighter planes, tasked with covering the operation as the ships passed Cherbourg, had difficulty providing effective air support. Despite the bad weather, the British noticed the increased enemy activity in the channel. Their radar equipment, though often jammed by the Germans, detected Luftwaffe activity, while the Air Force patrols spotted some of their enemy motorboats moving to join Celiax's battle group.
All of your defenses are...
Yet the British remained unaware of the three big warships crossing the channel and attributed this increased activity as some sort of rescue mission. The German dash carried on. It was 10 a.m. Around 10:30, a squadron of British Spitfires flew in the area highlighted by the radars to investigate. Upon encountering German fighters, one pair of Spitfires dived to avoid engagement, and to their astonishment, the pilots saw the German fleet spread out in a line beneath them. Avoiding anti-aircraft fire, they turned and hurried homeward.
I would get that. It seems like all of the protections that the Germans are trying to set up to make it so that they're safe are actually doing the exact opposite and just notifying the English.
Maintaining radio silence.
That's like
Since
a movie
they weren't
moment.
looking specifically for the German battleships, It took roughly an hour for the report to reach the Admiralty.
Like, that's like where it would go to commercial. Like, if I'm pausing so much, I can see it like going to commercial. If this is like a TV show where like the British and is like just going on a flight just to check out a possible something of interest in the channel, and then they meet a German fighter and they're like, whoa, that was close, and they dive under, and then it zooms up on their face and they're like, oh no, and it turns down, dramatic music, and then it just sees a giant fleet of German boats and then cuts to commercial. I gotta sit on my head.
Vice Admiral Celiax was about to enter the Straits of Dover, surging at 30 knots. Upon hearing about the presence of the German battleships in the channel, Prime Minister Winston Churchill commented, "At all costs, the ships must be intercepted and made to pay dearly for their audacity." But despite Churchill's confidence in British military power, both the Royal Navy and Air Force struggled significantly to challenge the Germans in a timely manner. Out of 32 motor torpedo boats, only 5 were able to venture out into the channel.
This is
with the
suspenseful
hope of
because
trying
I
to
really
scupper
don't know
the
what
enemy's
happens.
plans. But this daring attack failed to even put a serious challenge to the outer ring of the fast German motorboats. The power imbalance was so high that after one pitiful torpedo attack and a brief exchange of gunfire, the British were forced to retreat. Shortly past noon, the German battle group entered the narrowest part of the strait, where they were engaged by the old shore batteries located near Dover.
No way, so they're that close.
Only 4 9.2-inch guns had the effective range to challenge the group. A radar-assisted artillery barrage roared for 17 long minutes, but no British shell landed within a mile of the fast-moving German fleet, which managed to pass by the white cliffs of Dover unharmed. As the Germans were slipping away, the British frantically sought to scramble any available aircraft squadrons to attack Celiax's fleet.
What is that distance? I was going to check, but I'm not going to. Like 25 miles, you think, across or something like that?
It was a true challenge, since nobody really expected the Germans to perform such an outrageous maneuver in the middle of the day. Well past 1 p.m., a number of slow, obsolete swordfish torpedo bombers covered by Spitfire fighters performed another attack. While the fighters engaged the Luftwaffe air cover, the swordfishes attempted to fly close enough to drop torpedoes. A valiant attempt, but it yielded no results, and a few minutes later, the entire swordfish squadron was shot down. Though unsuccessful, the devotion and bravery of the swordfish pilots made a lasting impression on the German crews aboard their big modern warships. For the next couple of hours, Vice Admiral Celiax was kept busy by an ever-increasing number of hasty...
So Vice Admiral Celiax can't eat bread, right? It upsets his stomach. Anyone get it? Celiac joke. Never mind.
...prepared British air attacks.
Gluten.
But none of these came close to slowing down the warships. Up until this point, the German admiral could have considered himself lucky, but at 3:30 p.m., the Scharnhorst hit a mine and a violent explosion shook the ship. The engines went silent.
Imagine getting through all that and then hitting the
ship's
mine.
2 compartments were taking water, and Celiax immediately decided to move to one of the destroyers to maintain control of the whole operation. The group steamed forward, while the mechanics on the Scharnhorst desperately struggled to fix the damage and get the ship moving again. Half an hour later, the repair teams...
Guys, why don't you have like a ship with a strong motor, maybe like a tugboat or something, go ahead of a big ship like that you're worried about hitting mines, and on the back of the tugboat, like have it like drag a long, large steel like fence kind of perpendicular to the boat. Obviously, it can't have too much drag, or the boat really won't be able to go fast at all. So kind of like a steel fence, or just like steel wires or something, so that like it can kind of sweep through and detonate any mines in front of the big ships.
Managed to put her back in motion, and the Scharnhorst built up a speed of 27 knots, trying to catch up to the rest. By 4 p.m., Bomber Command was able to scramble its entire squadrons of medium and heavy bombers.
Where's the Luftwaffe?
But due to the fast-moving targets and atrocious weather, only a fraction of the British bombers managed to find the German group. Time passed quickly, and with each hour, the chances of halting the German dash diminished. But then, a group of 5 First World War-era destroyers made contact and focused torpedo attacks on the Gneisenau. The British claimed 2 hits, but in reality, none of the projectiles found their targets. In exchange, both Gneisenau and Prinz Eugen locked their guns on the last destroyer.
How do you think you got 2 hits if you really didn't? Like, I don't understand. How can you claim a hit? I mean, did you see the explosion? And if not...
HMS Worcester, which soon suffered a heavy battering. Despite receiving severe damage, she survived the attack, as the German warships quickly resumed to pursuing their original objective. The British employed an increased number of naval vessels and aircraft to stop the Germans, but all this effort was futile.
HMS is Her Majesty's ship? Something like that?
It was getting dark again, and Celiax's ships were already steaming along the Dutch coast, putting distance between them and the British Isles. In spite of the Gneisenau hitting a magnetic mine that evening, and soon thereafter the Scharnhorst hitting another, by the next morning, the battle group reached Wilhelmshaven. The Channel Dash was successfully completed. Vice Admiral Celiax was the first naval commander since the 17th century to pass his battle fleet through the English Channel, an achievement for which he was...
Damn! That's crazy. What?
Vice Admiral Celiax was the first naval commander since the 17th century to pass his battle fleet through the English Channel, an achievement for which he was awarded the Knight's Cross.
That's impressive on Great Britain, more than any, and celiac disease, celiacs. Did you get my gluten joke? That's incredibly impressive. No fleet went through the English Channel since the 1600s, did he say?
Fleet through the English Channel, an achievement 17th century.
Yeah,
to
1600s.
the Cross.
30 years war was going on.
It was a German tactical victory which humiliated the Royal Navy and Air Force, revealing their flaws and shortcomings. But on a strategic level,
well, depending
the
on when.
repositioning of the Kriegsmarine's capital ships significantly lowered its ability to challenge the force, revealing their flaws and shortcomings. But on a strategic level, the repositioning of the Kriegsmarine's capital ships significantly lowered its ability to challenge the British at sea and diminished its role in the later years of the war.
The Germans at... I have a question after this. The Germans at Brest used various means to deceive British bomber crews. The battleships were draped with camouflage nets, and a French training cruiser was decorated with wood and canvas. So from the air, it would roughly resemble the Scharnhorst. I can't forget what I was going to say. Okay, I can go. Great channel, great video. But so what was the point? I missed the point. If you don't want to see me go through and find it, fine. Awesome video. See you guys next time. But what was the point? I missed.
Out of the morning mist, the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen enters the safe harbor of the German-occupied port of Brest to undergo much-needed engine repairs. Not a week ago, she parted ways with the dozens of German sailors, necessary equipment. It seemed that within the next 2 or 3 hours, the group will be ready to finally depart the port of Brest, one of the most risky missions in naval history, on board the German fast. It is the cold winter evening of the 11th of February, 1942. Dozens of German sailors bustle around aboard the German fast battleship Scharnhorst, ensuring the vessel is ready for an upcoming mission. The commander of the entire battle group, Vice Admiral Otto Celiax, leans over the handrail on the ship's bridge to check the preparations on a similar battleship moored just a few hundred meters away. The Gneisenau was being fueled and loaded with necessary equipment. It seemed that within the next 2 or 3 hours, the group will be ready to finally depart the port of Brest. Do
you know what's so crazy, guys? And I've noticed recently because someone else I saw said it online. So I have terribly bad ADD. I've had it my whole life, and basically my attention span is like a rock, basically none. And what's very interesting that I found out, and it's so true, is that when you set the speed of a YouTube video to like ×2 or maybe times 1.75 if you can't catch ×2, it strangely makes it easier to understand, because the thing with ADD is like any lull in a conversation or in a statement is when your brain just like you start to think about something else. It doesn't have to be like a butterfly flies by, you know, your stereotypical ADD, like, oh, caught my attention. It's just whenever there's a lull in speech, your mind fills that up rather than waiting for them to finish, fills it up with a bunch of other nonsense. And then you realize you didn't pay attention. But when you put it to ×2 speed, it's almost easier to understand because there's no way for my brain to get off topic because it doesn't have time to do it. I just wanted to bring that up, but I'm trying to find out the reason.
The most risky missions in naval history is about to begin. This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. A click away. It's the 1st of June, 1941. Appearing out of the morning mist, the heavy cruiser Prince Eugen enters the safe harbor of the German-occupied port of Brest to undergo much-needed engine repairs. Not a week ago, she parted ways with the damaged battleship Bismarck, which was soon compelled to fight her last battle against the overwhelming pursuit of the British Royal Navy. The demise of the Bismarck, one of the 2 newest and most powerful warships of the Kriegsmarine, led the German naval command to rethink the role of their biggest naval vessels in the ongoing Battle of the Atlantic. In the summer of the year 1941, the Kriegsmarine had 3 serviceable capital ships at their command. The second craft of the Bismarck class, the Cerberus, was finishing crew training in Kiel, and the 2 smaller fast battleships, referred to as battlecruisers by the British, the Scharnhorst and his sister ship, the Gneisenau, both undergoing repairs in the port of Brest. Each of these 3 warships presented a serious threat to Allied merchant convoys steaming through the Atlantic, and their very existence tied down a good portion of the British home fleet, whose main task was to keep the shipping lanes free of the German menace. In order to at least partially contain the potential of the Kriegsmarine, the British Royal Air Force was assigned with the mission of bombing warships anchored in German-controlled ports, in the hope to put them out of commission for as long as possible. These air raids proved to be rather ineffective in the case of the Cerberus, as she was a relatively hard target located deep into the southwestern Baltic coast. But the other 2 battleships, moored at Brest Harbor, were subject to an almost constant barrage of bombing sorties flown by the Royal Air Force. Of course, these were dangerous missions for the bomber crews, performed usually at night and against heavy anti-aircraft defenses around the port facilities, with small, barely visible targets, so it rarely yielded any significant results. But the sheer amount of attacks flown by the British were enough to keep the German warships out of service for a good part of 1941. The German Naval Command under Grand Admiral Erich Raeder had a tough nut to crack: the fate of the Bismarck and the manner in which the British were able to track the battleship down in the
Here's where I missed.
Atlantic with the help of their superior radar highlighted the risk the Kriegsmarine had to consider while planning Atlantic service ship sorties against merchant convoys. The demise of the Bismarck convinced the Führer that all of his major vessels were little more than costly luxuries, especially closer to the end of 1941, when the Wehrmacht was enduring the first strains on the new front opened against the Soviet Union earlier that year. The idea of bringing the 3 warships from Brest back to home waters took hold when the British made a number of raids on German-occupied Norway, which made Hitler realize that the Scandinavian country could become a target for Allied invasion.
That's the crucial thing I missed is why, what was the necessity of bringing them back so quickly? And so they wanted it to use it to help defend and attack if they need to. If the UK made a landing, they needed to defend Norway and that part. Okay, that's all I miss.
Based on this, the Cerberus was moved to the Norwegian fjords to both strengthen the German defenses there and also to attain a good forward base to harass Arctic convoys bound for the Soviet Union. The warships in Brest were to follow the same patrol, but the question remained how to safely move them back home unscathed.
Okay, so they needed to do the same, patrol Norway, the coast, and it wasn't feasible to go around, you know, the west coast of Ireland and north of Scotland, or even around I guess Iceland, and so that was their best shot, best way to do it, and so that it was worth the risk, I suppose. Okay, awesome. If you're still here somehow, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.